The desert was metal. Old, sun-bent alloys stretched for miles, cracked and rusted beneath the weight of centuries. Pieces of broken ships lay scattered like bones, half buried in sandstorms that never really stopped, just paused to catch their breath. Above, the sky was bleached, sick with heat. Nolan crouched beside a collapsed engine shaft, his gloves scraping gently over the carbon-scored plating. He pulled a scanner from his belt, its faint hum steadying. In the salvage fields of Orbit Fallen Terrace 4, the rule was simple: find something before the desert swallows it. He was quiet, always quiet. Not because he had nothing to say, but because silence kept him from remembering things he didn't want to. His ship, the Wren, sat parked half a kilometer back, half buried in a rust dune. She was old, like him. Worn, patched up, and just barely flying. Today, like most days, they both moved through the dust hoping for one last thing to keep them going. Then the scanner blinked. Biosign. Faint. Unstable. Nolan frowned. Biosigns in a glass field usually meant two things: malfunctioning androids or something worse. He moved toward the signal slowly, carefully. The glass field wasn't just junk. It was haunted. At least, that's what they said in bars back at Port Doran. They whispered of lights moving at night, of voices buried in static, of machines that bled when cut open. But Nolan didn't believe in ghosts. He believed in lost tech and quiet tragedies. The scanner led him to a jagged hull fragment, curved, silver, etched with unreadable symbols that shimmered faintly in the light. Half buried beneath it was a pod. Not a standard escape unit. This was something older. Organic in shape, a translucent shell grown over a frame of soft biometal. And inside it, someone. A girl. Nolan's breath hitched. She lay curled in fetal position, limbs tucked close, hair a dark spill against the gel surface. Her skin shimmered faintly, not metallic, not fully human. Something else. The pod's vitals flickered. She was alive. Barely. Damn it, he muttered, dropping to his knees. The manual release was fused. He cut through the pod's crust with a plasma blade, careful not to hit any key veins or systems. The stasis fluid hissed as it drained, and the pod opened like a slow-blooming flower. The girl gasped. A sharp, sudden inhale that shook her whole body. Nolan caught her before she fell. She was light. Too light. Her skin warm, pulse rapid. She looked at him through half-lidded eyes, golden, glowing faintly, and filled with confusion. Then she spoke. Am I still alive? Her voice was broken, like an old radio. Nolan swallowed. Yeah, he said softly. You're here. You're safe. A lie, maybe. But a kind one. The inside of the Wren smelled like dust, oil, and cinnamon rations. Nolan laid the girl on the medcot, brushing strands of hair from her forehead. She didn't speak again, but her eyes tracked everything. He patched up a small wound on her shoulder, maybe from the crash, maybe older. Hours passed. Outside, the sun dipped low, turning the sky the color of bruised gold. Nolan watched her sleep. The scanner showed slow vitals, stable now, but odd. Not wrong, just different. Her blood carried strands of something unlogged. A code? A virus? A language? He didn't know. But it made his chest feel tight. When she woke again, it was dark. She sat up suddenly, eyes wide. Nolan reached out gently. Easy, he said. You're okay. She flinched from his voice. Then she looked around. Where is it? What? The cold. The lights, her voice cracked. The white room. Nolan blinked. You mean, where you came from? She stared at him, searching. I don't remember, she whispered. I only remember the ceiling. It was white, And, music. Music? A song. In a woman's voice. Soft. It said, "Open your eyes." Nolan's jaw tightened. He sat beside her, but didn't touch her again. "Do you remember your name?" he asked. She shook her head slowly. He hesitated, then said, "Can I give you one?" She turned to him. "Why?" "Because people should have names." She thought for a long time. Then nodded. Nolan looked out the window. "Solari," he said. "Like the old myth. The star that never went out." Her lips moved. She said it once, then again. "Solari." Later, as the ship rocked gently in the wind, Nolan made them dinner, reheated packs of protein mush and a slice of tangerine from his private stash. Solari watched everything like it was new. "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. Nolan didn't look up. "I don't know," he admitted. A beat of silence. "You were alone," he added. She nodded. "So was I." That night, she woke from a dream screaming. Nolan rushed to her side, finding her curled on the floor, hands over her ears. "They're coming," she whispered. "They're coming back." Her skin was glowing. Faint blue patterns moved along her arms like fireflies under the skin. "Who?" She didn't answer. Nolan didn't push. He just sat beside her and held her hand. In the morning, the scanner picked up something new. A signal. Encrypted. Nearby. Nolan's stomach dropped. Someone had traced the pod's energy burst. He looked at Solari. She was outside, standing barefoot in the dust, watching the rising sun with a look of wonder. She turned when he approached. "They're coming," she said again. Nolan nodded. "Then we run," he said. Solari looked at him with wide, uncertain eyes. "You don't even know what I am." He gave a soft, tired smile. "I don't care," he said. "You're not alone anymore." The dream came again. The ceiling was white. The light, humming. The air tasted like metal. Then, the voice. Not Nolan's. Softer. Warmer. "You are not broken. You are more than they see." When Solari woke, the voice disappeared, but the ache remained. She sat up slowly, the blanket sliding from her shoulders. Around her, the inside of the Wren was quiet. Still. Early. Nolan was by the engine core, fiddling with an old diagnostic tool. The ship's hum pulsed gently in the floor beneath her. "You slept," he said without turning. "I don't think I know how to sleep," she answered. "But, I didn't wake up screaming this time." He looked over, smiled faintly. Progress. The next day, they left the glass field behind. The desert turned to cliffs, jagged ridges of black and rust, where the wind howled through the bones of old refineries. Solari sat in the co-pilot's seat, watching the land pass below. "This world is full of broken things," she said quietly. Nolan didn't answer. They hid in a cave that night, covered the Wren in camouflage netting, and buried the ship's heat signature with a blanket of micro-reflective dust. Solari sat at the edge of the cave mouth, legs pulled to her chest, staring out into the darkness. The stars overhead were strange. Wrong. No patterns she recognized. Not that she recognized much. "What do you think I am?" she asked, not looking back. Nolan was seated behind her, soldering a cracked comm board. "You?" he replied. "I think you're someone who deserves answers." She turned to him. "But if the answer is something bad? Something made?" He didn't look away. "Then that's not the answer's fault. It's the question's." Solari didn't understand that. Not completely. But she appreciated that he said it. 2 nights later, it happened again. They were eating. A quiet meal of heat packs and dried fruit. Nolan made a joke, something about his terrible flying, and Solari laughed. Really laughed. Then she froze. Her hands began to glow. Her fingertips pulsed with soft light, like veins of blue fire beneath her skin. Nolan sat up fast, dropping his spoon. "You okay?" She stood, breathing fast. "It's happening again. I don't know why. I didn't mean to." "Hey," he said, gently reaching out. "It's okay." But she backed away. "What if it's not okay? What if I'm dangerous? You're scared. That's not the same." But her voice rose, trembled. "You don't understand. Last time, I hurt someone." Nolan froze. She looked away. "A man. When I escaped. He grabbed me. And I didn't know what I was doing. The light, it just came out of me. He fell. Didn't move again." Silence. Then she whispered. "What if I'm not someone? What if I'm something?" She left in the night. Barefoot. Quiet. Nolan didn't wake. Or maybe he did, and let her go. Either way, she ran. Through sharp grass and cold wind, until her legs ached and her breath was broken. She stopped only when the stars looked like eyes. She found an old comm relay buried in the side of a hill. Dead tech. Vines wrapped around rusted panels. She curled up beside it and stared at her hands. They weren't glowing now. Just pale. Thin. They looked like any girl's hands. She cried. Softly. Because she didn't want to hurt anyone. Because she didn't want to be afraid of herself. Because, somewhere deep inside, she wished Nolan had stopped her. But he did. She heard his boots in the dirt. Quiet. Steady. He sat beside her without a word. Offered a wrapped ration bar. She didn't take it. "You should have let me go." He said nothing. "I could have led them to you." "You didn't." "Not yet." He shrugged. "I take my risks slow." She finally looked at him. "I don't want to be what they made me." "Then be something else." "What if I don't know how?" "Then we figure it out together." Nolan helped her up. She didn't let go of his hand right away. They traveled again. West, toward the signal. Toward someone who might understand what Solari was. Nolan told her stories, quiet ones. About other places, other people. Not many, but enough to fill the space between heartbeats. He didn't talk about his past, not directly. But Solari saw the scars on his shoulder. The way he always faced the door. The way he flinched at certain sounds. He was broken, too. Just differently. They reached the edge of an abandoned listening post 2 days later. The ruins stretched across the rocks like a shipwreck, torn satellites, fallen towers, a half-buried dome. "Someone used to live here?" Solari asked. Nolan nodded. "Someone still might." The signal came from inside the dome. Encrypted. Shifting. Solari followed Nolan through the broken gate, heart pounding. Inside, dust floated like ash. Old screens blinked. Something hummed beneath the floor. Then, a voice. "Stop there." They turned. A woman stood by the central console, gun in one hand, face half covered by a mask. "I was wondering when you'd show up," she said. Nolan narrowed his eyes. "Zale." The woman removed the mask. Dark hair. Sharp eyes. "Hello, Nal." Zale didn't blink when she saw Solari. But Nolan saw the shift in her jaw, the way her stance faltered for half a breath. "She's the signal," Zale said. Solari stayed behind Nolan, uncertain. "Her name's Solari," he replied quietly. Zale's eyes narrowed. You found her in a pod. Yes. And you didn't shoot her? No. Zale looked at Solari again. You remember anything? Solari shook her head. Pieces. Zale lowered the pistol, slowly. You're lucky, she muttered. Most bio-designed prototypes don't come out of cryo-sane. The dome was filled with old equipment, half-dead servers, long-range dishes caked with dust, and something newer, a black cube humming faintly on the central table. Zale poured a cup of something hot and bitter. Sat across from them. Tell me everything, she said. Nolan hesitated. Then he did. The field. The pod. The escape. The glow. He kept Solari's confession, about the man she'd hurt, to himself. When he finished, Zale leaned back, arms crossed. I thought I'd seen the last of this, she said. Of what? Project Lumen. Solari blinked. You know it? Zale looked at her then. Really looked. You're the last one. Zale used to be a signal chaser, part scavenger, part rebel, part addict to the truth. She hunted encrypted data like it was treasure, pulled black box logs from war zones, and sold secrets to people who didn't always deserve them. But Project Lumen? That was different. It wasn't about war or money. It was about guilt. Because once, Zale had cracked an uplink from a closed lab orbiting a red dwarf moon. She didn't know what she'd found until it was too late. A list of names. Unit numbers. Notes like empathy over growth, terminate. Subject weeps under stimulus, unusable. And one entry marked, active, unresolved. Lumen 0.17, condition unstable. Emotional sensitivity high. Latent biolux output uncontrolled. Status, delayed termination. Zale had erased the uplink. And tried to forget. But now here Solari was. Alive. Glowing. Breathing. Your proof, Zale said quietly. They built a heart into you and called it a failure. Nolan sat near the wall, arms crossed. Watching. Can you help us? He asked. Zale raised an eyebrow. Depends. You trust me again? He didn't answer. Solari looked between them. You knew each other? Zale smirked. Once. Nolan looked away. Zale's voice softened. He used to be different. Softer. Before he saw too much. Nolan muttered, and you used to be less of a liar. Zale shrugged. We all break. Some of us just get better at hiding the cracks. They got to work. Zale connected Solari to a biometric interface. The lights flickered as the system read her. What's happening? Solari asked. Your body carries data, Zale said. Like a living archive. I'm trying to decode it without triggering any defense protocols. Nolan watched her work. Silently grateful. Silently angry. There were things between them still unsaid. Memories of nights on rundown freighters, of hands brushing too long, of arguments that lasted hours and ended in silence. Zale was the first person he ever trusted after the war. She was also the first to betray him. The decoder pinged. Zale stared at the readout. This is more than I thought. What is it? Solari asked. It's not just files, Zale said. It's a map. Coordinates. Logs of every experiment done under Lumen. Nolan stiffened. That's why they want her, Zale said. She's not just a failed project. She's the record of the entire thing. Solari's voice shook. They built me to be a storage unit. No, Zale said. They built you to be silent. But the woman who made you, Tenma, she planted all this in you. She wanted someone to find it. She sang to me, Solari whispered. Zale froze. What? In my dream. Before I woke up. A voice. Singing. Zale turned to the console. Typed fast. Then hit play. A file. Audio. Open your eyes, little fire. Solari gasped. That's it. Nolan felt his chest tighten. Dr. Tenma's voice, Zale said. She must have recorded it right before hiding you. Then the alarm shrieked. Zale's system lit up, red flashes everywhere. They're here. Outside, lights swept across the canyon. Fast. Methodical. Corporate search unit, Zale muttered. They tracked your trail. Solari was already backing away. They'll take me again. Nolan stood. No, they won't. Zale slammed the cube shut and tossed it to him. Go out the back. Take the canyon path. I'll stall them. Nolan looked at her. Zale. Don't argue. You never did listen. They ran. Through dust. Through silence. Behind them, gunfire cracked. Solari stumbled once. Nolan caught her. I can't do this, she said. You already are. They reached a ledge that looked down into a deep trench of wreckage. Nolan tapped the side of the cube. Can you send it from here? Solari shook her head. We need an open relay. Strong enough to reach past orbit. There's one, Nolan said. But it's 5 days west. Old rebel node. Abandoned. Then we go. He looked at her. She looked afraid. But she nodded. We go. The wind that moved through the highlands wasn't gentle. It scraped across the rocks like memory, slow, grinding, full of loss. Vena liked it that way. It meant no one came here. And no one was good. She hadn't spoken to another living soul in 412 days. Not since she burned the last of her clearance badges and left the orbital medical compound without saying goodbye. Not since she chose to disappear. She didn't think she deserved company anymore. Not after Lumen. Not after what she helped build. The station, what was left of it, rose from the cliffs like a broken tooth. It had once been a rebel relay tower. Now, it was her shelter. A place for ghosts. Vena kept a small garden of synth root, 2 solar panels that barely charged, and 1 old drone for scanning the canyon walls for motion. On day 413, the drone pinged. 2 life forms. No weapons heat signature. No uniform signals. Strangers. Not soldiers. She watched them approach from the high ridge. A man. Tall, worn-looking. And beside him. A girl glowing faintly beneath the skin. Vena's heart stopped. Not just strangers. Lumen. She didn't come out until the second day. They camped just outside the station, too careful to enter without an invitation. The man set traps. The girl stared at the sky like it was whispering to her. Vena couldn't look away. Unit 17 was alive. But she wasn't a unit anymore. On the 3rd day, she descended the tower. You shouldn't be here, Vena said. The man, Nolan, stood slowly. Didn't reach for his weapon. The girl, Solari, stepped forward. You know me, she said. Vena nodded. I knew what you were supposed to be. What was I? Vena hesitated. A light switch, she said finally. Something to be turned on during a war. And off after it ended. Solari's jaw tightened. But you didn't shut off, Vena added. Inside, the station smelled like old metal and dried herbs. Vena brewed tea. Offered it with shaking hands. Nolan sat against the far wall, watching. Solari sat cross-legged, eyes never leaving Vena. You worked on me. I worked under her, Vena replied. Dr. Tenma. She was the one who made you. I just kept your body from rejecting the fusion systems. Why? Vena sighed. Because I believed what they told me, that making people softer would help them kill faster. It was supposed to be empathy without ethics. A weapon with just enough humanity to obey but not enough to question. Solari looked down. Vena continued. But then you cried. In your sleep. And Tenma didn't report it. She held you. Sang to you. She said, we made a star, not a bomb. And they killed her. Vena nodded. They said she'd gone soft. That night, Solari wandered outside. The stars above were clear, sharper than glass. Nolan found her sitting at the edge of the ridge, knees pulled to her chest. You okay? He asked. She didn't answer at first. I don't want to be data, she whispered. Or evidence. Or a cause. Then what do you want? To just be. To exist. To breathe without being measured. Nolan sat beside her. You're already doing that. But it won't last. He reached out slowly, touched her hand. If it doesn't last, he said, then we make it count. On the fifth morning, Solari collapsed. Her body shook violently, her skin flickering between light and shadow. Vena ran every scan she had. What's happening? Nolan demanded. Her system's rejecting itself, Vena said, voice tight. The memory coding she carries, it's degrading her. Too much heat. Too much strain. Can you fix it? No, she said. But there's one place that might. Where? Vena pulled up a map. A dark zone, no signal, no contact, no charted paths. An old biotech core. Dormant. Forgotten. It was built to rewrite tissue-level code. You think it can stabilize her? I think, Vena said quietly, it was where Tenma originally built the base architecture that made her. If anything still knows her body, it's there. Solari looked up weakly. Will I live? Vena met her eyes. I don't know. But if you don't try, the data won't matter. You won't survive long enough to send it. They left that night. Nolan carried Solari through the dark canyons, following Vena's directions etched into the tablet. A storm rose behind them, static and heat. And with it, trackers. Vena watched from the ridge as the red lights blinked in the distance. She activated the emergency beacon. Just before the signal went dark, she whispered into it. You wanted her erased. Now she's going to be remembered.